Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about quadratic functions. We are going into our last unit, so we're almost done, but not quite. We're going to talk about key features and graphing today, and then we'll just slowly keep picking it up, okay? So things you need to know. I would go ahead and pause to write all of this down. You need to know a parent function is the original graph. X-intercept, where the curve crosses the x-axis, also known as the root, solution, or zeros. You will see all four of those words, so you need to make sure you know that they all mean the same thing. Y-intercept, where the curve crosses the y-axis. Vertex is the turning point, so where it's curved. Extremum, that is the maximum or the minimum, highest or lowest point. Also, that is a vertex. If your vertex is the highest point, then you would call it a maximum. If it's the lowest point, you would call it a minimum. Axis of symmetry is the line that you could draw down the middle that would make, like if you cut the graph in half, it would be the same on both sides. So it's just an invisible line that we're gonna draw. Domain, all possible x values, and range, all possible y values. So most of the stuff you do kind of already know from working with linear functions and exponential functions. Exponential functions have asymptotes, linear functions have slope, and these ones have, quadratic functions have all of this. Quadratic functions are parabolas. So let's go ahead and graph. How do we graph? We build a table and then we use the points to graph. So this is actually our parent function, f of x equals x squared. We're actually gonna have a video on Thursday talking about transformations, and we'll visit that again. So just choose 4 x values. They can be any x values. You just pick 4 that you want to use. So I chose -1, 0, and 1, and 2. I'm gonna plug those in for the x value, and then just solve it and get the y value. So I'm going to put -1 to the power of 2. Notice that that -1 is in parentheses. 0 in parentheses, 1 in parentheses, 2 in parentheses. So I square all those, I get 1, 0, 1, 4. So now I'm going to throw this on a graph. So here's our graph. We're going to put a point at -1, 1, 0, 0, +1, 1, 2, 4. And then we're just going to connect them. And we put arrows at the end because these are extending onwards, like they're just going on forever and ever. So now that we've built a table, this should be kind of simple because we've already built tables and graphed things before from tables, mainly linear functions and some exponential functions. So now we're going to move on to the new part, which is the key features. So we're still working with this graph, the parent function f of x equals x squared. So let's get into it. We're going to find the x-intercepts, zeros, roots, solutions, which again are all the same thing. So that is right there, the x-intercept, where it touches the x-axis. So x-intercept is 0. Zeros is 0, roots 0, solution 0. It is the x value of your x-intercept. So the x-intercept, we write it in brackets and we put the actual x value. It's not like the y-intercept where we put a point. Speaking of, here's our y-intercept. It's in the same spot because it's going through the origin. So our y-intercept is 0, 0. Y-intercept is a point. Next, I want to know, do I have a min or max, a high or low point? On this graph, I can see that I have a low point. This is the lowest point. No other points go beneath that point. So this is a min or a minimum. Next, we have our vertex, which is our turning point. So you guessed it, it's that same point right there. That is where the graph turns or spins around. And if you notice on the table that we made, it was -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. So once those y values start repeating, that's our turning point. So For this, my vertex is 0, 0. Next, we've got axis of symmetry. So a line that goes directly through the middle. And that is a vertical line. So I've got that vertical line going through the middle, and I do need to write it as an equation. So it is x equals 0. That is our axis of symmetry. Okay, next we've got domain. I can see that this graph is continuously extending, like very slightly, but it's still extending left to right. So of course for this one, my domain is all real numbers. We'll talk more about domain and range on Wednesday. And then, we'll just talk more about it then. Now let's look for our range. So remember, range is bottom to top. I can see that I have nothing below that 0. So my range is y is greater than or equal to 0, because it does touch that point, but it just bounces back up. Okay, and that's it for that. Let's look at another graph. So here we have a graph. Notice we don't have the equation, which is okay, because we're really just identifying key features of this graph. So again, x-intercepts, zeros, root solutions, that's going to get really tedious, but you're going to have to write all 4. For this one, I can see that I have 2. I've got one right there, and I've got one right there. So that is, I would write them both from least to greatest, so 0.52, 0.52, 0.52, 0.52. Next, my y-intercept is over here at -2. So that is 0, -2. Okay, now I'm looking to see if it's a min or max, high or low point. This one does have a high point, so it's a maximum. Next, we are looking for our vertex or a turning point, which is same spot as the maximum. So it's right there. And we would actually write that. So it is 1.25 and 1. And notice that I'm kind of just guesstimating that 1.25 because it is counting on the y-axis. It's counting by 0.5s. Oh, on both. It's counting by 0.5s. So I assumed that it was 1.25 and 1. Axis of symmetry. So going right through the middle, that would be x equals 1.25. And something that I want you to notice is that the axis of symmetry really is just the x value of your vertex. So if you find your vertex, you can literally just axis of symmetry, x equals whatever that x value is. Your range, which we are not going to do on this graph because I'm really focused on these newer key features for today. Your range on this graph would typically just be the y value of your vertex. So for this one, it would be y is less than or equal to +1. And that would be it. Okay, that's it for us, guys. Good luck. If you need help, reference back to this video, get on Zoom, whatever.